From Mai Zenin sacrificing herself for her sister,
Mai! Wake up! Mai!
to Nanami getting killed in front of Yuji,
Itadori, you take it from here.
here is everyone in Jujutsu Kaisen who did not deserve to die. Starting off our list with Nobara Kugisaki. Alright, so Nobara Kugisaki was the fiery and confident third member of the main trio and a first-year student at Jujutsu High. Nobara didn't become a sorcerer because of a tragic family history or a grand sense of duty, but rather because he wanted to live in Tokyo and get away from the small-minded village where she grew up.
Nobara Kugisaki. You should be honored, boys. I'm your group's girl.
During the Shibuya incident, Nobara came face-to-face with Haruta and was brutally defeated. While she was rescued by Nanami Kento, she wanted to redeem herself and do her part to rescue Gojo Satoru, even though he tried to stop her. So after being separated from her group, she ran into a double that Mahito had created to distract the sorcerers. While many would have been terrified to face a special grade curse alone, Nobara treated it as a chance just to show how strong she really was. She fought the clone using her straw doll technique to land a devastating resonance hit, because you see, her ability, it targets the soul. The damage she dealt to the clone, it actually traveled back and hurt the real Mahito, who was busy fighting Yuji in a different part of the station. This was a massive moment for her, as she was one of the few people capable of actually hurting Mahito's soul, and for a moment it looked like she was finally stepping up as a high-level sorcerer. However, the tide turned when the clone began to retreat towards the main body. Nobara chased after it into the subway, not realizing that the two Mahitos were planning a deadly switch. As they ran past each other in the narrow hallway, the real Mahito reached out and touched her face to activate her idol transfiguration.
Run! Kugisaki!
In those final seconds, she had a moment of reflection and thought back to her childhood friend, Saori, and her new life at Jujutsu High. And she looked at Yuji, who was watching in horror, and told him,
Itadori, tell everyone for me. Life wasn't so bad.
The impact of Nobara's removal from the story was absolutely crushing. For Yuji, witnessing her collapse right after losing Nanami was just another soul-wrecking crush that sent him into a state of total shock, making him unable to defend himself as Mahito attacked him. Her loss also signaled the permanent end of the golden days for the main cast. We got Kokichi Muda, Mechamaru. So, Kokichi Muda, also known as the puppet user Mechamaru, was a third-year student at Kyoto Jujutsu High, whose life was essentially a walking nightmare. You see, guys, due to his heavenly restriction, he was born with an incredibly fragile body. His skin was so sensitive that even the faintest of light could burn him, and he was permanently disabled. However, in exchange, he received immense amounts of cursed energy that allowed him to manipulate puppets all throughout Japan. Since he couldn't directly interact with his classmates at school, he had to stay underground and pilot a mechanical puppet from a distance.
This fateful pact was forced on me the second I entered this world. I was born without a right arm and with nothing at all below my knees. But in exchange, I've been granted immense cursed energy production and the ability to use cursed techniques over vast distances.
While his friends were hanging out or training, Kokichi was stuck behind a screen watching a life he could never actually experience. He's like the Squidward meme. All he really wanted was to be normal and to have a body that worked so he could finally walk beside the people that he cared about. And also, he especially wanted to meet Miwa, who always treated him like an equal and shared a deep likeness with her.
I wonder where the real Mechamaru actually is.
This deep desire for a normal life, it's what drove him to make a deal with the Kenjaku as a mole, trading information about the Jujutsu High School in exchange for Mahito using his idol transfiguration to heal him. It was a massive gamble, but it worked. For the first time in his life, Kokichi stood up with a healthy, painless body. However, he never actually intended to let Kenjaku and Mahito get away with the Shibuya plan.
You're no fun at all. You should celebrate a bit more.
I'll do that after I'm finished with my promise.
As soon as he was healed, he unleashed his secret weapon, a giant mechanical suit called Ultimate Mechamaru Mode, which was powered with 17 years of stored cursed energy. He fought Mahito in a brutal high-stakes battle, hoping to kill the curse and get word to Gojo before the Shibuya incident could begin. He used his genius to damage Mahito's soul by using simple domain tubes to bypass. For a moment, it actually looked like he had won and had successfully cornered a special-grade curse through pure strategy and grit.
No more spectating from the sidelines for you! Suguru Geto!
However, Mahito was clever and faked his death, causing Kokichi to redirect his focus to Kenjaku. But as soon as he did, Mahito attacked him and infiltrated his machine. Even after his death, Kokichi was able to assist during the Shibuya incident through the mini Mechamarus he left as a failsafe. These little robots provided vital information and communication to Yuji and the other sorcerers, helping them navigate the chaos after Gojo was sealed. However, his death, it was extremely devastating for Miwa, so in one of his mini Mechamarus, he left a final recording for her, telling her how much he cared for her and asked her to find happiness away from the world of sorcery.
Please try to find some happiness. Whatever shape it takes, as long as you're happy, my dearest wish in life will have come true.
Kento Nanami. Kento Nanami was a grade 1 sorcerer and a former student of Jujutsu High with a cursed technique, the ratio. He was arguably one of the most grounded characters in Jujutsu Kaisen because he didn't fight for glory or a grand destiny. Instead, he fought because he was an adult and he believed it was his responsibility to protect children like Yuji.
It's a gruesome sight. Are you ready to witness it, Itadori?
He actually quit the sorcery world once to work in finance, but he eventually came back because he felt both career paths were difficult and often thankless. However, he realized that being a sorcerer at least allowed him to help people directly. During the Shibuya incident, Nanami was on the front lines from the very beginning. He entered the Veil and quickly found himself in a life-or-death battle against the special-grade Curse Dragon. Along with Maki and Naobito Zenin, Nanami was trapped inside Dragon's domain expansion and faced an endless swarm of Shikigami that nearly killed them all. They only survived because Toji Fushiguro crashed the domain and killed Dragon. But the relief, it didn't last long because just seconds after the domain collapsed, Jogo appeared and used his abilities to burn Nanami and the others.
Let us meet again in the wasteland a century from now. Now then. First one down.
While most people would have died on the spot, Nanami's sheer will and cursed energy reinforcement kept him moving, even though half of his upper body was completely charred. Even in this horrific state, Nanami didn't stop and wandered through the Shibuya station, hallucinating about the life he wanted while looking for any sorcerer who needed help. He eventually stumbled into a group of transfigured humans, and despite being barely conscious and in a dreamlike state, he wiped them all out to clear the path. That was when Mahito appeared behind him, and Nanami knew his time was up. During his final moments, he thought back to his high school friend Haibara and questioned his return to the Jujutsu world, but he quickly realized his words could become a curse for him. That's when he realized Yuji was standing nearby, and with a clear conscience, he chose his final words very carefully so he didn't leave Yuji with a curse or a heavy burden of guilt. So he simply told him,
Itadori, you take it from here.
Right before Mahito activated his idol transfiguration and killed him. The impact of Nanami's death was a massive turning point for the series. It was another traumatic loss that forced him to face the brutal reality that being a sorcerer means losing the people you love the most.
What the hell are you? Mahito! You don't have to shout! I can hear you fine! Yuji Itadori!
Nanami didn't deserve to die in a dark subway station. He deserved to be reading a book on that beach in Malaysia. However, our heroes weren't the only people who faced great losses because our next pick is Mimiko and Nanako. Mimiko and Nanako were the two most tragic victims of the cycle of hatred in the Jujutsu world. They were first introduced in a flashback where a young Suguru Geto found them locked in a cage in a remote village. The villagers had been torturing and neglecting the twins simply because they could see cursed spirits and possessed cursed energy. The abuse of both of the girls was the final nail in the coffin for Geto. He chose to save the girls and killed every single person in that town. From that moment on, Mimiko and Nanako were completely devoted to him. They didn't care about his dark goals or his hatred for non-sorcerers. To them, Geto wasn't a monster or a criminal. He was the man who had rescued them from a living hell and became their adoptive father.
Geto!
Watch closely.
After Geto's death at the end of Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the twins remained loyal to his memory. When a mysterious entity took over Geto's body and he began operating as pseudo-Geto, Mimiko and Nanako were horrified, but they continued to support him, as it meant honoring his wishes.
We cooperated with you fully, and kept dropping monkeys for you.
Now give us back Master Geto's body like you promised.
They didn't care about the Shibuya incident or the plan to seal Gojo Satoru. Their only goal was to get their father's body back so he could rest in peace. They were even willing to side with the sorcerers if it meant destroying the thing that was wearing Geto's skin. This desperation eventually led them to an encounter that they were never prepared for. During the chaos in Shibuya, the twins tracked down a heavily injured Yuji Itadori and force-fed him Sukuna's fingers to bring him out. When Sukuna finally awakened and took control of Yuji's body, the twins made a fatal mistake. They tried to bargain with the King of Cursons, and they offered Sukuna the location of another one of his fingers in exchange for killing the man inside of Geto's body.
Please free Geto.
Sukuna, though, had no interest in being a tool for others. He found their attempt to give him orders insulting, and before they could even realize how much danger they were in, Sukuna used his technique to slice Mimiko's head into pieces. Nanako, paralyzed by grief and terror, tried to attack him with her phone-based technique, but Sukuna was far too fast and cut her down instantly, leaving their bodies in the rubble of the station. Their deaths were a cold reminder of how cruel this world really is. Unlike our next chapter, who is a victim of bullying and manipulation. Junpei Yoshino. Junpei Yoshino was a regular high school student who met Yuji Itadori under the most unfortunate circumstances. You see, Junpei wasn't a sorcerer, he was just a kid who was constantly bullied by his classmates. He spent most of his days avoiding school and watching movies to escape the reality of his life. Since he had been treated so poorly by people, he became vulnerable to anyone who offered him a sense of power or understanding. That was when he met Mahito. The cursed spirit didn't care about Junpei's pain, he simply saw an angry human that he could use for an experiment. Mahito manipulated Junpei's worldview, convincing him that humans had no souls and that his desire for revenge was completely justified.
Well, everyone enjoys a little wordplay. And after all, humans can't live without making up excuses for everything.
While Mahito was feeding Junpei's hatred, Yuji Itadori entered his life and offered a different path. The two bonded quickly over their shared love for cinema, and for a brief moment, it looked like Junpei might actually find a way out of the darkness. However, Mahito couldn't let his toy get away that easily, so he planted one of Sukuna's fingers in Junpei's home, which led to a cursed spirit killing his mother. Distraught and blinded by grief, Junpei believed the bullies at his school were responsible and went on a rampage to kill them. When Yuji arrived at the school to stop him, they had an intense fight, but he finally managed to reach Junpei. He promised to help him and find a way to make things right.
If we all work together, I guarantee you, we can find whoever it was that cursed your mom. Then you can make them pay for what they did.
But however, just as things seemed to get better, Mahito appeared and placed a hand on Junpei's shoulder. He activated idol transfiguration and turned the boy into a grotesque, mindless monster right in front of Yuji. Junpei began attacking Yuji before his body eventually gave out.
Help me.
The impact of Junpei's death changed Yuji forever, guys. Before this, Yuji believed that everyone deserved a proper death, and that most people could be saved if he just tried hard enough. While Junpei's death may have fundamentally changed Yuji, the next character death here changed the Jujutsu world. Riko Amanai. Riko Amanai was the main character of the Hidden Inventory arc whose death changed Gojo and Geto's lives. As the Star Plasma Vessel, she was raised with the knowledge that she would eventually have to give up her humanity to merge with Tengen, the immortal sorcerer who maintains the barriers and veils across Japan. Due to her importance, Satoru Gojo and Suguru Geto were assigned to protect her from assassins during her final days of freedom. During their time together, Riko got to experience what it felt like to be a normal teenager for the first time. They went to the beach, visited visited her school and spent time in the city, which made her realize that the world was much bigger and more beautiful than the tomb she was expected to live in. Despite their strict orders, Gojo and Geto had already decided that if Riko didn't want to go through with it, they would protect her choice.
What if the Star Plasma Vessel Kid refuses to assimilate? Then the whole thing gets called off.
Even if it meant going against the entire Jujutsu world. As Geto and Riko reached the tombs of the Star Corridor, Geto offered her a choice.
Riko, let's go home.
But at that exact moment, she reached out to take Geto's hand. A gunshot echoed through the room, and Toji Fushiguro, who had spent days exhausting Gojo's defenses to bypass the school security, shot Riko in the head, killing her instantly. The impact of Riko's death was an important turning point in the series. It sent Geto down a dark spiral, and it forced Gojo to unlock his full potential, which is similar to the next character here, whose sacrifice changed her sister's life. Mai Zenin. Mai Zenin was the twin sister of Maki and a character defined by a life she never actually wanted. She was born into the Zenin clan, one of the most traditional yet abusive families in the entire Jujutsu world. In the eyes of the Zenin elders, twins were considered a bad omen because they were seen as a single person divided in two.
Have you heard about Ogi's daughters? One of them can't even see curses, much less use techniques.
Twins are always a sign of ill fortune.
This meant that while Maki was born with no cursed energy, Mai was born with a small amount and a technique called construction. When Maki left the clan to become a sorcerer, the family forced Mai to become one too, just to spite her sister.
I never wanted to be a Jujutsu sorcerer. It's all your fault. Because you tried so hard to be one, I was forced to follow in your footsteps.
Though Mai didn't have Maki's drive or ambition, she just wanted a normal life. However, Mai's suffering became worse during the preparation of the Culling Games. When Maki returned to the Zenin estate to gather cursed tools from the warehouse, she found her father, Ogi Zenin, waiting for her. Ogi brutally defeated Maki and dragged her into a discipline room filled with a swarm of cursed spirits, along with Mai.
As a Jujutsu sorcerer, I never lagged behind my brother in any area, except one. The quality of my two children.
As they both lay there dying, Mai realized the truth about their connection as twins. In the world of Jujutsu, twins are a single soul. And as long as Mai was alive, her cursed energy was acting as a barrier that prevented Maki from reaching her true physical potential.
But that balance never functions properly, in the case of twins like us.
Mai knew that for Maki to survive and win, she had to die. In her final moments, Mai did something incredibly selfless. She used the last of her life and cursed energy to create a powerful sword for Maki, a process that completely exhausted her body. Oh, and she made one small request.
Destroy everything.
And yeah, Maki did exactly that as she went on to massacre the entire Zenin clan, and they totally deserved it if you ask me. Just as the next character didn't deserve to bear the burden of their knowledge. We've got Masamichi Yaga. So Masamichi Yaga was the principal of Tokyo Jujutsu High and a father figure to some of the most important sorcerers in history. He was the man who kept Gojo and Geto in line during their teenage years and the one who didn't let the higher-ups treat children like weapons.
Sensei! I'm asking you to stop this hunt for the culprit!
So it was you then.
You see, Yaga's unique power was the ability to create cursed corpses. These were artificial bodies brought to life and controlled by cursed energy. His greatest achievement was Panda, the first truly independent cursed corpse with the ability to sustain cursed energy on its own.
Yaga, what is that thing?
However, his life was cut short because of that very talent. Following the Shibuya incident, the Jujutsu higher-ups were in a state of panic and declared Yaga and Gojo accomplices to Kenjaku's plan. They had long been suspicious of how Yaga created Panda, fearing that if he could make an army of independent, self-sustaining cursed corpses, he would be a threat to their authority. They demanded that Yaga reveal the secret to creating self-sustaining cursed corpses, but Yaga knew that in their hands, people would be turned into weapons of war. So when the higher-ups ordered his execution, they used it as a bargaining chip. They sent Yoshinobu Gakuganji to carry out the execution or reveal the truth of his technique. They fought a brief battle that ended with Yaga being mortally wounded, and as he lay dying, Yaga finally revealed the secret. To create an independent soul, you have to input the information of 3 highly compatible souls into one core. Gakuganji was stunned, asking why Yaga chose to tell him the secret only after being fatally wounded.
Because it's a curse, Principal Gakuganji.
It was a burden of knowledge that would haunt his old friend forever. Just moments later, Panda arrived and found his father's body, leading to a heartbreaking scene where the puppet mourned the man who gave him life.
Just make sure you remember this. Even pandas can cry.
The impact of Yaga's death was a turning point for the political structure of the series. It proved once and for all that the Jujutsu higher-ups were beyond saving, and they were so obsessed with control and power that they were willing to murder their own most loyal leaders during a global crisis. His death also deeply affected Gakuganji, who began to question his blind loyalty to the system. Most importantly, it left the students of Jujutsu High without their greatest protector. Haibara. So Haibara was a first-year student at Jujutsu High and the light of the group during Gojo and Geto's high school years. While most sorcerers are burdened by their duties, Haibara was genuinely happy to be there.
I'm totally psyched, though. I can't wait to show off in front of Geto.
He was the kind of person who always had a smile on his face, loved to eat, and was constantly trying to lift his classmates' spirits. But during the hidden inventory arc, Haibara and Nanami were sent on what was supposed to be a routine mission to take down a grade 2 cursed spirit in the countryside. The higher-ups at Jujutsu High had classified the mission as a low-level threat, and the two young sorcerers went in expecting a straightforward fight. However, the information provided by the higher-ups was completely wrong, and instead of a minor curse, they found themselves facing a massive, powerful deity that far exceeded their abilities. By the time that they realized the mission had been misclassified, it was already too late to call for backup or retreat safely.
Nanami, you should just rest for now. Satoru has taken up your mission.
Nanami survived the encounter, but Haibara didn't. The scene in the morgue remains one of the most haunting moments for anyone following Geto's journey.
The marathon game of being a Jujutsu sorcerer.
The impact of Haibara's death was devastating for Nanami and Geto. For Nanami, it was the moment he realized that sorcery was a thankless, brutal cycle, which led to his decision to join the corporate world. For Geto, Haibara's death was another proof he needed to justify his hatred for humanity. And now, we have our most controversial pick, Suguru Geto. Geto was Gojo's best friend, who was probably the most complex and tragic figure in the entire series. In his high school days, Geto was the voice of reason and moral superiority in his group. While a young Satoru Gojo was arrogant and dismissive of the weak, Geto was the one who constantly reminded him that sorcerers exist to protect non-sorcerers.
Looking out for the weak and protecting them is honestly so exhausting.
Survival of the weakest. That's the proper shape of a proper society.
However, that strong sense of morality led to a self-destructive spiral during the events of the hidden inventory arc, and it started right after Riko Amanai's murder. After losing her, he began questioning his place in the world and the meaning behind what he was doing. His inner thoughts made it clear that his daily suffering was all to protect people who were unknowingly creating their own misfortune by failing to control their cursed energy.
No one else understands what cursed spirits taste like. It's like swallowing a dirty rag that's been used to clean up shit and vomit. Who am I doing this for?
As his mental state continued to deteriorate, the death of his friend Haibara became clear proof that the Jujutsu system was broken, and sorcerers were treated as disposable tools in a never-ending cycle. But the final straw came during a mission to a remote village where he found the twin sisters Mimiko and Nanako being tortured by the villagers that I mentioned earlier. In that moment, Geto snapped and killed all 112 villagers, officially turning his back on humanity.
Suguru killed everyone in the village, though from the bloodstains and residuals he most likely killed his parents.
Like hell he did!
Satoru, calm down. I don't understand what's going on either.
Geto spent the next decade building a cult and gathering power, which eventually led to the Night Parade of 100 Demons, where he launched an all-out attack on Tokyo and Kyoto, hoping to isolate Yuta Okotsu and steal the Queen of Curses, Rika. He was ultimately defeated by Yuta and found by Gojo in an alleyway.
You're late again, as usual, Satoru.
And Geto, he didn't express regret for his path. He simply couldn't live in the world as it was and chose to make a difference in the way he understood best, just like Gojo. In the end, Geto offered Gojo a heartfelt smile before he was forced to kill his best friend.
The least you could do is hit me with some curses.
The impact of Geto's death was catastrophic for the Jujutsu world. On a personal level, it left Gojo emotionally isolated, as he had to kill the only person who truly understood him. On a larger scale, because Gojo didn't dispose of Geto's body, Kenjaku was able to steal the corpse and use Geto's technique for the Shibuya incident.
Your body and cursed energy. All the information provided by my six eyes is telling me you're Suguru Geto. But both my heart and my soul know otherwise! Now answer me already! Who the hell are you?
The truth is, Geto didn't deserve to spend his life as a product of his trauma or to be used as a puppet after his death. He was a man who needed a friend, a hug maybe, probably a therapy session. And guys, that was our list of characters who didn't deserve to die in Jujutsu Kaisen. Comment down below if you agree with our list and let us know what other characters you thought didn't deserve to die. We will be looking. And of course, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye!